Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why some people seem to distrust big institutions like the government or the media so much, and how that might connect to beliefs about something as seemingly different as gender? Well, this new study might have a clue. Today we're diving into some fascinating research that explores a rather complex connection. Imagine a world where beliefs about gender go hand in hand with feeling like the system is rigged against you. That is the territory this paper explores. It asks whether narratives about gender ideology, which are often quite controversial, can actually be a sign of general distrust in institutions, and how these ideas might be used for political gain. So how did our researchers tackle this big question? They ran 3 studies. 2 were like snapshots in time, looking at people's beliefs at one specific moment. The third was a bit like a slow-motion movie, tracking the same people over time to see how their views changed. In total, they gathered information from over 2,300 people, a good mix of ages and genders. To figure out what people believed, they used questionnaires. One key part was measuring agreement with gender ideology narratives, or GINs. Think of statements that suggest gender ideas are some kind of plot to harm traditional families or values. They also measured broader conspiratorial thinking, that general feeling that hidden forces are at play. And importantly, they looked at institutional distrust, how much people trust things like government, media, or even scientific bodies. Now, for the findings, in the first study, they found something pretty striking. Support for these gender ideology narratives, or GINs, was strongly linked to having a general conspiratorial mindset. It wasn't just about gender. People who believed in GINs were also more likely to believe in other conspiracy theories, like those about the climate crisis. And guess what else it was linked to? A strong conservative political outlook, and crucially, distrust in institutions. This second study built on those findings, looking at different types of conspiracy beliefs, including those about COVID-19 and the invasion of Ukraine. Again, they found that believing in gender ideology narratives went hand in hand with believing other conspiracy theories, and importantly, with lower trust in institutions. It also showed that older people, those with more conservative political views, and those who distrusted institutions were more likely to believe in GINs. But the real magic happened in the third study, the longitudinal one. This is where they could look at cause and effect, or at least the direction of influence. Over time, they tracked people across 3 different time points. So, what did this long-term look reveal? They found that as people's trust in institutions went down, their belief in gender ideology narratives tended to go up. This happened consistently over the study. It suggests that a general feeling of distrust can pave the way for these specific narratives. This is where they used a fancy statistical model called the Random Intercept Cross-Lagged Panel Model, or RIGHT-CLPM. Don't let the name scare you. Basically, it helps them separate out the general stable distrust someone might have from day-to-day ups and downs in their trust. And even when they accounted for these stable differences, they still saw that dips in institutional trust were followed by increases in belief in gender ideology narratives. Interestingly, they also looked at the other way around. Did believing in GINs lead to less trust in institutions? They found that this was true from the first time point to the second, suggesting a feedback loop. They also looked at collective narcissism, that feeling that your group is special and deserves admiration. This did show a link to believing in GINs, but the effect wasn't as strong or consistent as the link with institutional distrust, especially when looking at changes over time within individuals. So, what is the big takeaway from all of this? The researchers argue that gender ideology narratives aren't just random beliefs. They seem to be deeply connected to a broader pattern of thinking, particularly among those who are politically conservative and distrustful of established institutions. Think of it this way. If you already feel like the powers that be are out to get you or are misleading you, a narrative that suggests a gender ideology is a plot to disrupt your way of life might sound very plausible. It fits into a pre-existing worldview of suspicion and perceived threat. This is where the instrumentalization part comes in. The paper suggests that these GINs can be deliberately used by political groups, especially right-wing populists or anti-establishment parties. They can tap into people's existing distrust and fears, presenting themselves as protectors of traditional values against this supposed gender ideology. This can shift political preferences away from mainstream parties and towards those that promise to fight against these perceived threats. In essence, this research paints a picture where distrust in institutions and belief in gender ideology narratives create a sort of mutually reinforcing cycle. It is not necessarily that one directly causes the other in a simple way, but they are intertwined, feeding off each other and contributing to a more polarized and distrustful society. This means that these narratives are more than just opinions about gender. They can be a symptom and even a tool in wider political battles. Now, it is important to remember this is one study. While the longitudinal design is strong, no study is perfect. For instance, the participants were primarily from Slovakia and Czechia, so these findings might not apply everywhere in the same way. Also, while they found strong links, correlation doesn't always equal causation, though their longitudinal analysis got closer to suggesting directionality. Future research could explore other cultural contexts and perhaps dive deeper into the specific mechanisms that make these narratives so appealing to those with institutional distrust. But the core message here is quite powerful. It highlights how seemingly different beliefs can be connected, and how a general climate of distrust can make people more susceptible to specific conspiracy theories, including those that target evolving social norms and rights. It is a reminder to be critical consumers of information and to understand the broader social and political forces that might be shaping the narratives we encounter. What do you think about these findings? Does this connection between distrust and gender ideology narratives make sense to you? Let us know in the comments below if you found this breakdown helpful. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science insights, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.